Hello, this is the Couples Expert podcast, and this podcast is brought to you by the Couples Weekend 2 Days and 7 Conversations.
Are you married or in a committed relationship looking for real advice on having love and enriching your relationship? You are in the right place. Welcome to the Couples Expert with Stuart Fensterheim.
I can't tell you how many couples that I know remarry, and there's all of these issues that have been left over from their previous marriage where people really haven't done the work. And what we mean by making peace with your past is really about having the ability to do what you need to do in order to find out whether or not your relationship that did not work, that led to the divorce, is something that you really understand what happened, what your part in this, what your ex's part of it, before you remarry. What I hear about in my office so often are people who come in already married, and what occurs is a conversation in my office that goes something like this. We have the wife and the husband sitting there saying, "We are struggling. We don't know what to do." And then when we begin to talk about this and we begin to pull it apart, what I see more than anything is unresolved issues, baggage from both people, because quite often if we're talking about a remarriage, we have two people who have both already been married before, quite often. Not always. Sometimes you have one person this is their first marriage, and the other person who is now going to be going through this marriage process all over again. And the attitude that's really sad is sometimes the attitude becomes, well, I'm going to give this my best shot. And if it doesn't work, I guess I'll just have to get divorced again. How terrible is that? I think people don't really understand what marriage is. And that if you come into this with the attitude that it might not work, I guarantee you it likely will not. So what I would like you all to really stand back and think about is, what is the value that you place on a marriage? Do you see marriage as something that's just a nice to have? Is it something that if it doesn't work, well, we could just go through this all over again? If that's your attitude, that's why you're in this bind. And these couples talk about this not before they get married, but now that they're in the middle of the muck, they want to sort of reprocess this. Why in the world would you do that to yourself, to each other, and God forbid if there's children? So what this means is that we need to do an autopsy. This is an autopsy of your past marriage, and if you've been married more than once, of your past marriages. And we have to deal with the traumas. The traumas are both emotional, sometimes physical, sometimes financial. And if you don't look at the traumas and the impact that they have had on you, and what your responsibility is, not only to what happened before, but about letting go. I see so many people that are really stuck in a bind. The bind is they think they're still married. They act with their ex as if their ex is doing something to hurt them or to offend them, or that they care what the partner thinks and feels. Why do you care about what your ex's beliefs are that has to do with you? I understand if it has to do with the children and parenting, but when we start looking at this, the issue is there are so many people, and I think there are going to be a lot of people out there that may be very offended with what I'm about to say. I think co-parenting is somewhat of a farce. I don't believe in it. I don't believe that two people who were once married are able to co-parent. I think the healthiest outcome for marriages and ultimately remarriage is when a divorce occurs, and yes, these children are both of yours, and yes, these are kids that you both love, and you want to work as a team, and you want to not pit kids one parent against the other, and you don't want to do the things that might be so destructive emotionally to your children. But you could not make a marriage work. The two of you didn't have the skills or the ability, or that your personalities were so different that you couldn't work together to save the basic ingredient of your relationship. And now you think you're going to parent together and you're going to work things out. And if there's a consequence in one home, you're going to agree with your ex's rules? What planet are you living on? Co-parenting is about two people caring about the kids and are willing to talk when one of the children have some problems to try to help that child deal with the issue. But if we're talking about parenting and responsibility and rules and regulations and curfews and all the things that you couldn't agree on when you were together, because if you did, if you were able to compromise in that area, you would have made your marriage work, in my opinion. So if you couldn't do it then, you're certainly not going to do it now. And part of the struggles for people that are trying to move on into a new relationship is they still have all the letting go that's needed with their exes. You need to try to understand why you haven't let go. What's so often what happens and what people forget about is a legal divorce is just a legal document. It's just a piece of paper. It's not something that says, I have emotional freedom and I've grieved the past pains and the hopes and the dreams and the expectations and the aspirations and living a life with one person and knowing that marriage is forever. We know marriage isn't forever when we've been through a divorce. And people think that when the judge signs the legal divorce, the marriage is at an end. It's not at an end unless you've buried it, unless you've emotionally separated from your ex to a place that says, I don't have any unrealistic expectation that that person is someone who cares about me. Because right now, the separation of each other's lives is what's happening. And you're not going to be buddies with your ex. I don't know really anyone that has done that successfully other than people who have had lost contact for years and years and years, and then find out that both people are remarried, and through life circumstances, they come back together. But the question that I have is, why do you even want to do that? Why aren't you being more honest with yourself that says, I want to have a life now that doesn't have them in it, where I don't have to pick up the phone and call and go through the arguing, where I don't have to think about how they feel about this or how they feel about that, that it is my life with my new partner, my new wife, and that's all that matters. My ex's feelings about things don't matter in this. And so often what ends up happening is when there are children involved, there's all of that discussion about what does mom feel or what does dad feel. When you get divorced, it is really the end of you and your partner caring about each other's well-being. Not that you want bad things to happen to them. Not that it wouldn't be sad if something tragic happened to your partner. I'll give you a good example. my wife and I are in a better financial situation than my ex-wife at this point. And that is sort of a good thing for me. I think there are lots of reasons for that. I'm not going to get into that, but the main thing is my ex-wife and her partner struggle more than we do. Is it my responsibility to help them in that area, to help her? Now, my children would have you say that I should help out. Sometimes that's true. When it benefits my children. When it doesn't benefit my children, I'm sorry, but I have a separate life than she does. And therefore, my life with my wife is more important. Now, that might sound horrible, that I should care, that this is someone I loved. And it was someone I loved very, very, very much. But quite honestly, through the things that occurred, there's too much pain there. There was a feeling for me of being unimportant to her, and that she wasn't willing to compromise to a place where I felt I could live with that. And when she said, I think you should move out of the house, when my children were there, and I had to pick myself up and move out, leaving everything that I loved and built, that pain still sits with me today. And I'm sorry, my energy is not going to be to help her have a nice lifestyle. I'm going to build a life for myself, my current wife, and my 2 children. That's what it broke. That's what divorce does. And you might say, as you sit here hearing about this, he sounds really angry. He hasn't let go. But what I will tell you, I have let go. But I've let go in a particular way. I've made a choice that my current life, my current marriage, will be the best marriage out there. And in order for that to happen, in order to be successful at this, I can't put a lot of stock into what happens for my ex-wife, and that my current wife is my dream girl. And I'm going to do everything to make our life together the best it can be. And what I would hope for all of you is that what you see in this is an attitude that says everything and anything that you can do to have you really move on, deal with the baggage, will help you and your partner feel like you are creating something special, an exceptional relationship, one in which you've worked on yourself. You've dealt with some of the loneliness that has come with being alone now. And there's nothing more painful for both men and women, or 2 partners in same-sex marriages, in where your life ends at the stroke of a pen or at words that sometimes people don't recognize how powerful they are when they say, I want a divorce. I just counted how many words there were. That was the pause. I want a divorce. 4 words of the English language. 4 words that change your entire being, that creates for you turmoil like nothing else. You know, I remember going through my divorce, and during the divorce, I went to a separation and divorce support group, a really good one out here at the Franciscan Renewal Center. It's a Catholic church that does lots of support groups. And one of the discussions that we had during those times was we bantered about this question. the question of which is worse, a spouse dying or getting a divorce, I would say 95% of the people out there said divorce is harder. Because if you're grieving over the death of a spouse, you're not asking yourself, what are they doing? You're not asking yourself, why couldn't I make it work? You're not asking yourself, why are they able to treat their new partner so much nicer than they treated me? You don't second guess yourself. You just grieve because you know there's nothing that could have been done. But the regrets and the sadness that go into this. And then what happens for a lot of folks, because of that kind of pain, you begin to look for someone to fill the emptiness, to give you a sense of security and stability in your life, a feeling that you have value. And then what ends up happening for a lot of people, they quickly try to find a new partner. Because not only do you feel bad about yourself, you wonder if you're physically attractive, and you wonder, do you still have it in bed? Because quite often your sexual relationship has not been good. And what ends up happening is you find yourself just finding anyone that gives you that attention, that has you feeling good. The point here is that you need to stand back and not get caught up into the fantasy of having a new relationship with someone. And then if we start thinking about introducing kids into the mix, and one of the saddest things that happened recently, as I was talking with someone, and they were telling me about their ex, including the children, in picking out prospective partners. Wow. It's like filling out a eHarmony or an online dating profile with their daughter and son and asking what they should put. What kind of tragedy is that? How sad is that the children would be caught up into now being part of taking responsibility for their mother or their father finding someone new? And what if that doesn't work? And what if they get attached to this new person and then mom or dad decides this isn't who they want to be with, and they have to break up that relationship, and the children have just grieved over their biological dad, and now the new one they have to deal with? Not even someone that mom or dad knew was going to be long-term? Don't do that to your children, please. There are consequences for our actions, and we need to really face why the marriage didn't work, and getting yourself into a situation in which you've done the autopsy. You've done what you need to do to really resolve what led to the ending of the marriage. And unless you've done that work, your new relationship is doomed for failure. If it's not failure in another divorce, it will definitely not be one that's an authentic, vulnerable marriage in which both of you feel important to the other and know that nobody in this world has your back more, and that the two of you are in this world together, and that your partner is the one person that you've ever met that has you feeling more important than anyone else. One of the most important pieces with all of this is so many people don't do a good job in preparing for the next relationship. You don't do a good job, for instance, in getting premarital counseling. People think that it's sort of like a nice to have. I would suggest if you've been married before, going to premarital counseling is a requirement. And if your partner and you are in a relationship and are talking marriage, don't allow the union to occur unless the two of you have gone through that. And you really have to let go to a place where you're really starting fresh. You need to develop a new culture. If you and your ex used to do some things, don't try to recreate that with your new partner. You have to develop new routines. You also have to be open to the change that's going to be for you and your partner. One of the things that for so many couples, the inflexibility of a marriage will tear it apart. You have to be flexible. A good example is I have a couple who came to see me recently, and the wife has decided that she wants to do something different from a career standpoint. And he's having a really rough time accepting that. Now, why would you have a rough time accepting a partner who wants to do something different? If we're talking about being together for the rest of your lives, think about who you were and what you wanted to do 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago. You're not the same person you were then. You're going to have to be willing to be flexible so that your partner's happiness is what matters to you. The other aspect is don't let money issues stay a problem. You need to deal with those things right away. So what I'm saying here, in order to really move forward, you have to deal with the issues that may have got in the way. It's not all doom and gloom. And it sounds so heavy, this whole conversation. But I want you to be excited. I want you to be excited about starting over, because there's learning that comes from previous relationship. There's the learning that comes from that you're not looking for someone to meet all of your needs, that you can stand on your own 2 feet by yourself. And when you've done that through the divorce, you now can take that with you to your new relationship. You know who you are much better than you ever have. One of the things that you realize going through this and into your new relationship is that honesty and authenticity is the only way to be. And what most people come to a new relationship is with this concept that I am who I am. I'm older now, I'm more experienced now, and all I am can be who I am. And that my past relationship with whatever pain it has changed me for the better. And that you know what marriage is about. Marriage is about being yourself, being who you are, warts and all, and showing your partner all of you, and knowing that they're there for you. And with age and with divorce comes great wisdom. Wisdom about yourself, wisdom about a partner, wisdom about your children, and the wisdom that love is the answer to almost everything that we have, both personally and professionally. And what you realize is that you need to court your partner every single day. From the time you wake up to the time you're going to bed, what you're going to do is send your partner the message that the choice that you make is to love them every single day. And that you know what you want in a partner, and they're it. And you've taken ownership of what you did wrong the first time, the second time, or even the third time around. And that you are incredibly picky of who your partner is going to be, and you've picked them. Thank you for joining me today on this adventure that really recognize that we have a past. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes relationships that haven't worked, but that starting today, starting this moment in time, you're going to create a marriage, a relationship that will last a lifetime. Take care. and stay connected. Bye-bye.